Yeah, of course, there are endless doubts along the way. There's a million, I could talk. And I think of anything, back to my earlier point, the doubts get bigger rather than smaller because there's kind of more at stake. So like the decisions we're making when there's 500 people involved, and it's all their livelihoods, and they're much bigger decisions than should we go and start a market stall with 2 people.
Welcome back. Hi, Florian. How are you doing?
Hi, Mario. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just wondering before that podcast, because you know that there can be wars in the group of foodies on what is the best pizza. But like before the next guest, I need to ask you, are you more the Napoli style or more the Rome style pizza guy? If you have to choose to only eat one pizza style,
oh my God,
at the end of your life, is it Napoli or is it Rome?
Oh my God. I'm not sure if I can answer that question.
But if you don't answer it, fine, then you don't get any pizza till the end of the year. So end of the life, you need to answer.
Okay.
3,
right,
2,
Napoli. Right now, Napoli.
Here we go. I was hoping for that. Thom Elliot will be very happy to hear that. So we have today a very special guest, the co-founder together with his brother of Pizza Pilgrims, Thom Elliot. They did a pizza pilgrimage. We talk about that to Italy in 2012. Then they came home with quite a big knowledge, a lot of enthusiasm, and basically funneled that into the street food movement. Now they have 22 pizzerias all around UK, 2 more to open this year. Currently 480 people, scaling up to 600, 30 million sales, 1 million profit, as we read in the Financial Times, my first million, it says. Still growing 20% per year. 15 investors from the early stage, and Inviva invested 2021, 3.5 million. In crust we trust. Welcome, Thom.
Thank you for having me. Look at that reel of Pizza Pilgrims in numbers there. I like that.
Yeah, we always need to get the numbers right. One of the biggest feedback we have is to spend more time at the beginning and make sure we intro the people right. So that's why we take more and more time on that. So, Thom, I want to start with the beginning. You chose a name which is called Pilgrimage, and I always choose another name which is called Schwellenangst, and I want to debate with you on how close they are. The Schwellenangst is a German word, a funny German word, and it describes the fear of threshold and borders. It's basically the fear we have when we stand in front of a big decision. Should we marry that girl? Should we kiss that girl? Should we divorce that girl? Should we do that business? Should we not do that? And these major decisions in life, and there we always have this fear of threshold and borders. And you went on a pilgrimage with your brother back then, and I read up quite a lot. But I still would like to hear it from you. Like, how did you feel back then? You both had a good job. You quit. You maxed out your credit card. You flew to Italy, bought that Ape, and tried to learn more about pizza. How did that feel? How much joy was there versus fear to fail? What was the mindset of the 2 brothers back then, Thom?
I think honestly, we didn't have big ambitions for it. So I literally thought it was going to be a summer job for me. So everyone always says to me, like, how did you take such a big risk and blah, blah, blah. And the fact is, like, I had a job that I hated. I had I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a mortgage. It wasn't that much of a risk. It was just like, this would be fun and let's just have a crack. And it really has kind of grown organically from there. Like, I thought it would be a summer job. Then I thought, maybe we'd do a year. We never had a plan to open a pizzeria. Then we did. We were adamant we'd never open a second one. Then we did. And it really has kind of grown despite us, if anything, rather than with us. So there wasn't this huge threshold of like, cool, we're going to quit our jobs and go and start this massive pizza company. It was like, we're just going to change tack, and it was fine.
And Thom, when you were down in Italy, you visited all the heroes, because you said in one interview that you got lucky that you had this TV station team. You said nobody watched it, but it helped us that we had a big team with us and we got taken serious by the big guys. And you always quote Michele, the famous pizzeria in Napoli. When you came there and really saw on how much tradition, how much knowledge, how much passion, especially the South Italians have on pizza, did you have the confidence that you say, we can transfer that passion, that product to London? Where did you take this confidence to do that? Or you had respect?
I think we always had massive respect for it. I think that was the thing. And I think, when we first had a pizza in Damakeni, you see how much kind of love and attention and passion goes into it. You do feel a bit under threat to try and replicate that. And I think we were lucky in that at that time in London, there really wasn't much, certainly Neapolitan pizza. Mm. So actually the benchmark was pretty low. So for us to have a crack at it in our little van, it's very unthreatening. And yeah, I mean, Francomanca was sort of starting to happen at that point. And there were a couple of there was Santa Maria in Ealing, and there was Antica Pizzeria in Hampstead, but there really wasn't a lot of Neapolitan pizza. We still got a lot of people saying, oh, it's a bit, it's chewy, or it's floppy, or it's, I like my pizza thin and crispy. And it took a little while for that to catch up. So yeah, it always was intimidating. We spent a lot of time going back to Napoli and talking with all these people and, working with Antonio Caputo.
So Napoli is your second home, Thom?
Oh my God, it is so my second home. I think we've been about 40 or 50 times.
I also heard you saying, Thom, you said London needs to be a little bit more like Napoli.
It 100% does. Napoli's thing. Well, there's basically Napoli is like, let's make a problem only when it's a problem. So we don't need to shut everything down before it's a thing. Let's focus on the things that actually are a problem. And London is increasingly like you can't do anything without, there being a rule about not doing it. So I just love that city. It's got this crazy energy. I don't know if it's because it's next to literally an active volcano and every day could be your last day, but there is just this feeling of get on and live your life. And it's a bit mad. We take all of our managers and head chefs twice a year. And quite often we're taking chefs that are from Napoli. And it's so interesting because I think if you live there, you see the city in a different light. If you're brought up there, you see its challenges and the fact that it's a bit chaotic and actually trying to get everything structured is hard to do. But when we always take them back and they're always like, it's so interesting to see Napoli from your eyes, which is just this kind of passionate, no holds barred, anything goes city. And I think London, we could all do with being a bit more Napoli.
I agree on that. I try another angle on the Schwellenangst because you talk so highly about Napoli. How big is the Schwellenangst to open a Pizza Pilgrims in Napoli?
We have talked about it so many times. I just think it would just be too much, I think, for us. I think there would be big Schwellenangst there. There's so much great pizza, and I think it would just be so presumptuous that we could turn up and even compete with that. But we have talked about it, and every year we talk about it again. And maybe one year we'll have.
You see, he at least we found the Schwellenangst. Yeah. Before I hand over to Florian for his first question, I want to dig into this, let's say, family business. We had a lot of founders here who set it up with the best friend or etc. But we didn't have anybody yet who set up the business with his brother. We had brothers who took it over from the father, which is quite another dynamic. So how important is this brotherhood together as founders and now in the scaling up? How important is that family aspect for your success?
I think, the fact that he's my brother, it just from day one, there was absolute sort of trust in each other, I think, to kind of do the right thing. And I don't think though that it really matters. I think the most important thing is, I always think doing it with someone is essential for a good, for having a good time and enjoying it. And, hospitality is hard and having two of you is better. But I think we're just lucky in that our skills don't complement each other at all. So or they do complement each other even. So, I'm kind of Excel and leases and, analytical and detail, and he's creative and food and fun and momentum. And I think between us, we kind of make one complete thing. So yeah, we're lucky to have each other, and it is, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Who's making the final call, Thom, if it's tight? The mother, or who's making the final call if you're fine?
She's occasionally been there. Well, put it this way, I'm the elder brother. So
That's a very polite answer. This other brother I just quoted, they run a big sauce company together, Tom, and like very traditional German Mittelstand, like a 1 billion business sauce company. And he said in the interview, he runs a company together with his brother, he said, family second, business first. If you run the business with your brother and all the families involved, it's like it's the dominating theme on the kitchen table. And if there's an issue in the company, it has to be fixed before we come back to the private matters, so to say. Is that the same in your family?
I think that's the same, and actually even more than that. Like we in Pizza Pilgrims have a real aversion to calling ourselves a family. You know, I think so many businesses are like, oh, we're just one big family, and it's like, we're not a family. We're a business. We're a team. Is what we are. We're a team of people who've been like meticulously assembled to be great. Families are a fucking nightmare. Like they don't work. They're like up, down, left, right dynamic. No one's been asked to be there. They're all there because they have to be. And like that is not what we want to be at Pizza Pilgrims. We are not a family. We are a team. We are working together for the same goal. And if someone doesn't fit in that team, we've got to work to get them to fit, or they should go and do something else, because we all want to be pulling in the same direction. That's not meant to sound quite so, what's the word, like heavy threat or anything, but just this idea that we're a family together, I just don't buy it.
I like that, and we heard that also in other occasions, Tom. This podcast is not only about drive, it's also about doubts, and listening to you and let's say the problem solving skills of the people in Napoli. And you obviously brought that kind of problem solving and characters to London as well, and to the UK. Anyways, there must be doubts in the past 10, 12 years. Can you recall some doubts and struggles and hassles you had in your business life, in your career so far, that you could share?
I mean, there are so many. Like, despite sounding so breezy about it, when we started out, everyone was like, "What are you doing?" Like, so many raised eyebrows from our parents to our bosses to our friends. Like, this is not a good idea. I think when we opened Pizza Pilgrims, the first site, we had no idea what we were doing. Basically, in the first week, we had a 2-star review from the 3 biggest newspapers in London, all saying like, this pizza is not good. These guys don't know what they're doing.
That's a bummer.
Like, it was down. It was a very low point, I have to say. So that was really, really tough. I think, we opened the first 2 sites in Soho and they both went pretty well. And then we opened our 3rd site in somewhere called Exford Market, which is a much more much smaller community, should we say. And it really struggled. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, like, how are we going to make this one work? Like, this is a nightmare. And I think, but we always took things really, really slowly. I mean, it took us sort of almost 4 years to get to 3 sites. And it amazes me today the amount of restaurant people I speak to, that they open a site, it goes kind of pretty well, and then they're like, cool, I'm going to open 5 next year. And I'm like, don't do that. That's the fastest way to mess it up. Like, slow down, one at a time. Maybe that's just our way, but yeah, of course, there are endless doubts along the way. There's a million. I could talk, and I think of anything. Back to my earlier point, the doubts get bigger rather than smaller, because there's kind of more at stake. So like the decisions we're making when there's 500 people involved, and it's all their livelihoods, and they're much, much bigger decisions than should we go and start a market stall with 2 people. And you feel the weight of that. Like, I think more as we grow, I feel that doubt more.
What do you do to overcome those doubts if they're getting bigger now? Do you have a recipe?
I think it goes through waves. But the most important thing is that you hire people that you trust, and you really kind of believe in them, and you work on the relationship with them, and that becomes a real team dynamic to make decisions as a team. I go through waves of like, well, let's get loads of data and stuff. But my trouble with big data is that like, if everyone followed big data, it will end up at the same place. So we'd all sell chips and hamburgers. So what's the point? Like, if we asked 1,000 customers what should we do, they would tell us like, tomato ketchup on the table, chips on the side. Like, I want, and you did all end up in the same stuff. So I think right now I'm going through a phase of like, trust your gut. believe in what, you want to do, and make sure you're kind of checking in, but, don't let data lead you to places you don't necessarily want.
Mm-hmm. One of the biggest crises in our industry and for the society as well over the past years was obviously COVID, and especially also in the UK. And many people we talked in that podcast already they told us COVID was a real roadblock. How did you experience that time?
It's easy. No. COVID is the ultimate roadblock. Like, yeah, it was full on. I remember, it was so much. We obviously employ a lot of Italians, and they had been quite affected by COVID early compared to the UK. So we had a lot of people, like, before the UK were really even paying much attention, going like, I don't want to come to work. My mum says I shouldn't come to work. I'm scared of this, blah, 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 blah. So that was sort of happening early on. And we basically took the approach of, like, if you didn't want to work, you didn't have to, but we're going to stay open for as long as we can. Because, we didn't know if we were going to have to, like, let go of every single person in the company. So we were like, let's just keep trading for as much as we can, and that will protect as many jobs for as long as we can. And that's the best outcome. And we worked all that week, and then they announced the furlough on the final day of that week. And I remember just us all being on a Zoom call watching Rishi Sunak tell us about the furlough, and just like crying and getting really drunk. And it was mega, but we had about 3 weeks off, and it was really hard. And then, my brother came up with the idea of, selling pizza ingredients in a box and posting it out to our customers. So, we can literally put all the ingredients, dough, cheese, tomato in a box, wrapped it in wool, send it to a customer. And he came up, we had that pretty much good to go by like the 1st of April. So it was weeks. I think we were like the first or second restaurant company in the UK to do it. And, we put 100 up for sale on a Wednesday morning. We just reopened our first store for delivery, and we expected that to take a week to sell, and we sold them in under a minute. And so we did another 100 for the second day, and we sold them in like half a minute. Yeah. And then on the third day, we had this kind of weird choice. Do we kind of slowly build this up, or do we just try and sell as many as we can? So we basically put 1,100 kits up for sale on Friday morning. We had no concept of how to make them. And then he literally came with like, you will get this kit by sometime before the next 6 weeks.
Right.
Like, we won't give you a date. It will come to you at some point. And we sold 1,100 kits in 45 minutes. It was the most sales we've ever done in an hour in the history of Pilgrims. Yeah. And, and it grew and grew. And we, by February 21, we were doing, bear in mind, all the pizzerias are still closed. We were doing 10,000 kits a week. So it was like almost £250,000 turnover on this crazy product. And it saved the company. Like, we had cash flow the whole way through. We had all of our guys and girls, like working in factory lines, like assembling kits. And it was a completely different business. It got us through until the pizzerias came back. And we still do the kit, but they're much smaller.
So this crisis actually gave you also, as a person and as a company as a whole, a lot of drive, because you found something else. You found a new sales channel, basically, and at the same time some confidence in that.
I think it allowed us to not sit still. I think if we're honest, like, me and James are founders, and we kind of, we love the kind of cut and thrust of doing something differently. I think as COVID approached, we were probably getting a bit disenfranchised. It was like, it's all about process now, and there's got to be a system for everything, and everything's bigger, and there's got to be rules for everything. And I think we just felt like we don't fit into that much. And then suddenly, like, out of nowhere, it was like all bets are off, like no rules apply. And that's the moment where we were like, yeah, let's do this. This is great. And it was nice to sort of feel that no one was in control again. So you could take control.
I still remember, I think we all looked at you, because obviously everybody was like, in whole Europe, everybody said like, what do we do now? Who is like best practice? I remember when everybody was sharing what is people doing. And then I read once, like, early stage, you're doing these pizza kits, and it kept on growing and growing. But then everybody tried to copy you, but you need a strong brand and this hands-on mentality that the customers or guests actually believe in you, no? Because it's quite a big risk to order that, and then you even don't tell them when it shows up and how it shows up. I think I think that probably showed you how much you can lean on your brand and to trust you build with your community or fans or guests over the years before. One other thing came to my mind when talking about crisis, specifically in your country, and you mentioned before you have a lot of people working from Italy. How much is Brexit not just a bummer, but like really an obstacle for your day-to-day business? How much is that a roadblock?
I mean, it obviously is a roadblock, and don't get me started on Brexit. It's just the most ridiculous thing what we've ever done as a nation. But I don't know. Like it definitely had its moments, but we it's a bit of a cliche, but we really do try and look after our teams and have them develop with us. And right now in the company, I think we have a total of 3 vacancies, like anywhere. And we have no head chef vacancies, no manager vacancies. We still employ a lot of people from Italy, but yeah, we've never quite had the we were adamant the whole way through that we would never like close the store because of not enough team. I think a lot of businesses were like opening 3 days a week or whatever. We never got to that place. Undoubtedly, it was harder, and we had to throw a lot more resource at it. I remember we invented a role called the Chef Engagement Ambassador, which the board were like, that sounds like nonsense. I'm refusing to sign off this budget. Anyway, we got it, and he's still our Chef Engagement Ambassador, and it was a total game changer. Our head chefs are now so much more engaged in the business. We work directly with them to involve them in loads of stuff, and it really helps. So yeah, Brexit has been a problem, but not a problem that we haven't, I think, broadly overcome.
You tackled it.
Well,
as much as you can.
They just keep coming at you, don't they? So there's no point in kind of dwelling on it, really. There'll be another one soon. God knows what it will be. Probably a volcano in Napoli. That'll be the worst thing ever. Yeah.
So one more thing about this struggle and problems before we move on. I found it quite interesting in one interview or podcast, I don't remember. You said our biggest struggles, if there are any, are always around people. Rather, we don't fight them fast enough, or we over-promote them. And I found that quite reflected and interested, because not a lot of people talk about that. I mean, we all know that when you run a business, especially the first one, is an issue, and it's on the radar. But the over-promotion, not so often. At least we didn't had it here. Can you talk a little bit about how that can cause troubles, the over-promotion, and also how to avoid it? Like, what's the tool set for the other entrepreneurs out there to avoid that?
It's a really interesting phenomenon. I think we are a business that does really focus on growth and growing its teams and development, and having people who we recently had our 5-year club get together, and I think we're just short of 40 people now who have been with the company 5 years or longer, and that's growing every year, which is great. So we really do focus on developing people, but I think some of the pinch points we've had are exactly that. When we've got someone who we think is great, really fits into the culture, and they're like, I want to keep going up, and we just keep promoting them to a point where they're suddenly in a role that they are not equipped to deal with yet, because they haven't had the experience, they haven't had the training. We're not brilliant at guiding them, because this is the first business we've ever run. And they're the moments where, it can get really bad really quickly, because someone who you really love is out of a depth, they're struggling, the people around them are therefore struggling because they're not able to deliver against it. And it ends up just some bad news for everyone involved. So I think, as much as the obvious immediate short-term solution for people is just like, get a promotion, get more salary, it's all good news. We just did that so often in the early days, and ended up so often with people.
You lose them.
They were great people.
You lose them. You rather burn them, or if you put them through their old position where they have been thriving, you basically you destroy their self-confidence. You lose them anyway. Now, if you do that, it's a disaster. Now
it's an absolute disaster, and no one wins. And it sort of feels like a great thing at the time, and then very quickly you're like, oh. So we definitely made those mistakes early, and I think now we really try and blend hiring in great people with bringing people up at the right pace. I think we had it's a small example. We had a recent example where we over promoted a girl, been with us a long time. She's been with us 6-7 years. Everyone wants her to be a manager. She got to being a manager, and it was just too early, and it all went very badly wrong. And we managed to basically like bring her back down again and, help her be an assistant manager, give her a bit more time, retrain her, rebuild her confidence. She was made a manager 2 weeks ago, and she's in actually that third store really that I just talked about that was struggling. And they've had 2 record sales weeks on the bounce. The team are like absolutely, and she's just absolutely in the right place. And it's taken 18 months from that first over promotion to like rebuild that. But I guess I want to be the company that when we make that mistake, we go and fix it. But sometimes you can't be, and that person, it won't work. And I think the fact is that we constantly feel like we're overworried because we just don't know what we're doing half the time. And it's like having great people around you who do know what they're doing, that helps you keep them straight and narrow.
You said in several times that you are not motivated by opening more restaurants. You said like me and my brother are rather the ones who are holding the brakes. Why is that? What's the underlying fear of like, or where's the you have so much self-confidence and where's the underlying fear that you cannot do what you do now with 200 restaurants just because nobody has done it? Or like what is holding you back? You have a great product, you have a great brand. We talked about that. You got investors on board. You have the luxury that you still be in there as a joker, as you said, as a co-founder, although you have a professional management. So there's like all the facts speak for you. So why there's no 100 Pizza Pilgrims or 200 Pizza Pilgrims out there?
So I've never said that I don't think that it could be 200. I just don't know what it needs to be next year. Like I was in Florence this weekend, and like that cathedral that is obviously amazing took 150 years to build it. 150. No one human saw it the whole way through. And that to me is exactly what we're trying to do. Like it doesn't need to be next year. It doesn't need to be in 10 years. My absolute number one KPI is that my children, have children and take them to Pizza Pilgrims and go, this is a great
and are proud.
And if there are 200 shit Pizza Pilgrims floating around, it won't be that. But if there are, 30 this year, 50 in 10 years time, I don't know. I mean, maybe a bit faster. Maybe you can get faster as you get better. But the point is, I believe in the brand. I believe we have something that's big. I don't believe it needs to be tomorrow. And I just, every time I've seen it everywhere, people grow too fast, and it's the biggest problem they have because they're not putting out the fires.
Culture so fast. Now the culture.
You can't grow the culture. You've got problem sites that you can't fix because you're already on to the next thing. And like I say, it took us 6 years to get to 5 Pizza Pilgrims.
In this light, Thom, how would you describe success? Because if you started your business, you probably had an idea what a successful business looks like, and it changes probably over the duration of the past 12 years. How would you define, from your point of view today, a successful business?
I think for me, success is, and this is a bit of a cliched answer, but it's happiness. Our business purpose is making people happier one pizza at a time. And that is very specifically thought through because it's about happier. It's not about happiness. There's no end goal. It's a journey. It's about, what little difference can you make to someone's life, whether that's a customer or a team member or a supplier every day. It's every single pizza. We've got to focus on what we do and like use our medium. And the fact is, if you can get to 200 restaurants and you can walk into any of them and people go, I like working in this company. It's good. Like, they look after me. They give me opportunity. And that person might want to work with you for 3 months or 10 years. Who knows? But if you can give all those people an experience that they kind of hold dear in their heart for the rest of their lives, that's good. And I just fear that as you get faster and faster growth, that mentality to do the right thing and like look after people, it always gets chipped away at because all the decision makers are just like one step further removed from the reality of it. So, I try and as the founder, I don't look at any numbers. I mean, I had to check all the numbers that you sent me earlier, Mario, because it's like there have so many people who check the numbers, and that's all they want to do. Not all they want to do, but it's a huge part of their life is like making sure the numbers are good, and that's their job. Absolutely great, and they do a brilliant job of it. And don't get me wrong, it's important, but I don't look at numbers at all because actually going into a pizzeria, getting a vibe with the team, seeing the pizza that's good. That's the shit that's important to me. And whether if it's doing, $5,000 a week and everything's right, it will do 20 grand a week and 25 and 30 grand a week. It will happen. Like, don't
I think it's a very,
I've seen it so many times.
Very healthy approach. And I think then you also have been wise or lucky or whatever that you chose your right investors, because at the end of the day, I mean, you had 15 people giving you money at the early stage, then you got like a professional investor in 2021 giving you 3.5 million. So you got money in. That's not all your money. You can do whatever. So it seems that they bought into this culture, because normally that's the ones who push rather on the return on investments and on the growth. And there is where the founders, then you had quoted a lot of that examples, and we all know them, where a strong founder-led business get over-financed or too much money thrown in, and then the expectation grows, and then the founders burning out. So you got the right mix of investors who buy into that. Say
we've been so lucky, and I think we've cultivated that. Obviously, Indiva is a new thing, but we've really cultivated that. We work with them, we involve them, we want them on the journey. A lot of them have got all the money they need. This is not a purely financial play for them, but we work really, really hard to make sure that they are part of this, and we have been very, very lucky. They've let us take time, but we have wanted to take time. We still have. I think we've got like £1.5 million worth of debt in the whole business. It's just like we just adamant that don't need to do it faster. Like, why would you?
Healthy.
But it takes time, and most people don't want 12 years to get to. It's been hard. Don't get me wrong. It's really hard to keep going.
150 years return on investment in building the cathedral.
There you go. You see,
the Duomo in Firenze. Floyd and we spent a lot of time there in the Duomo in Firenze. I prayed several times in there. Anyway,
I didn't.
You said before that you would like your kids and the kids to go into this pizza pilgrim, but I found a very unusual quote in this Financial Times interview where you said, I have a very uncontroversial view on how my inheritance should be treated, and basically everything what is left after I died should go back to the state, and my kids should not rely on inheritance, I wrote down. So what's behind that thought, that all the great work what you're doing, and you were so proud before in saying the kids and the kids should go to pizza pilgrim. Why you want to give that to the state? Where's that coming from?
I don't know. This is going to get quite hectic now, but I have some fundamental issues with capitalism and the general kind of like moreness, because all I see basically is the people who have the most want more, and the people who have the least are kind of pretty chill, and that shouldn't be how it is. And I just feel like I don't know. I feel like there basically needs to be like a board game. There needs to be like a finish line, like you get to the winning square, and it's like, well done. You earned 50 million. Every single penny you earn from now on is going to go to the state, because no one is doing it for the money anymore. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity, the flywheel just gets faster, because when you've got the money, you get more opportunities to make the money, and and we can see it. I mean, every year there are more multi-billionaires and more people who have nothing. And so, I feel quite strongly that there's got to be a rebalance, and I don't know how it is. That was just one example, because you asked
very, very extreme view, because I think more and more entrepreneurs think your way, and you also see more people giving. And there is a famous example now in Germany where a restaurant company did what basically Patagonia did to give the company to itself, it was the first time that a restaurant company did that, like Haferkarte they're called. So you see more and more going that direction. I just found it very interesting, because before, when you talked about it, you've been so proud, and seeing your kids and the kids to grow that Duomo, and maybe then have the 100 or 150 or whatever it is, that like to continue the journey. And I just had to bring it up because this quote was so strong to say, we shouldn't leave anything behind. But I think you I think I said education. I said you should cover all education. Education and one apartment, I think you gave them.
Yeah. I think I said, lucky old them. Lucky old them.
Thom, you're probably reflecting a lot about the present and the future, and of course also the past, what we talked about. But is there anything that keeps you up at night right now, where you say, okay, this needs to be tackled, that causes me sleepless nights?
Honest truth is, like, my makeup, there is always something that's keeping me awake at night, always. And I honestly attribute, like, you know, if they have had any success, it's down to that. Like, there's no point where I feel like that's done. I'm always worrying about something. And I think as soon as you feel like it's done and you get complacent and someone overtakes you, I think. So yeah, I worry about everything. I worry about stupid stuff. I don't know what it is about the middle of the night, but you wake up and you're like, that's so not something to worry about. But at 3 a.m, it felt like the world was going to cave in. But yeah, I think you do have to worry. And I think, you know, I'm close to the team, and it's silly. Like, you know, I'll meet one person in the company who's not happy, you know, KPU's joined and something's not gone quite right. And I'll sort of obsess about that person to the point where it's like, you can't make everybody happy all the time, obviously. And it's not possible. But I think you can certainly learn from it and strive to be better. And I think it's important that so often companies like take bad experiences and let them affect everyone in the company. So someone steals money from you, and so you completely change your money policy and you like turn the screw on everyone, and you've got biometric tills and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you can't always do that. You can't always be reductive because 1 in 100 people are out to get you. You kind of just got to accept that will happen. But you've also got to make sure you take the good stuff and be like, that was great. How do we get that? You know, that one person has done something amazing. Let's make sure we push that into the culture. So yeah, it is hard. But no, I definitely am a worrier for sure. My brother's less of a worrier.
Okay.
I think.
When I listen to you, I always ask you a question about struggles and doubts and things like that, and you actually turn it into a completely positive answer.
Perfect.
It's quite amazing.
Perfect interview.
It's quite amazing.
From doubt to
there you go.
So Tom, let me ask you one last question from my end. What question should we have asked you that we didn't yet?
I mean, I think you might be the first interviewer who's not asked me what my favorite pizza is. So well done. That's an achievement. What should you have asked me? Yeah, it's been pretty good. You've covered a lot of areas, I think. Yeah, I mean, you haven't asked me like where like, do we want to leave the UK? A lot of people want to ask that.
You can answer that.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
We kind of ask you if you want to open in Napoli. So, but anyway.
You did. Yeah, that's fair.
When do we see the Pilgrims outside of UK?
So everyone who I speak to is like, if you were to leave the UK, the place to do it is Germany. For a number of, I don't know how you think about that, but my brother's wife is German. Like, it just seems that, you know, I've never actually been to Berlin, but it just seems Germany is like, it's obviously just a country that is flourishing, I think, compared to some of the other European countries. And yeah, it just seems like that they, you know, I think we're very similar as a nation. Germans and English, like, we have the same sense of humor and same. I think we're way more similar than I don't know, I originally appreciated. So yeah, maybe Germany.
I think on Germany, in Florian, we have opened quite a lot of restaurants there, and you have this, say, this first structured restaurant businesses which were both built around pizza, which is L'Osteria and Vapiano, which are quite dominating. And now you have Jamie entering, and then you have like hundreds and thousands of Italian who came to us 1970s, 1980s, and opened great pizza joints and sometimes even a handful more. I think what Germany never had is that, let's say, Franca Pizza Pilgrim 10 years ago kind of mid-step revolution. We all had this 20 years ago revolution with L'Osteria and Vapiano.
Yeah.
Now you see a lot of like ghost kitchen pizza concepts popping up, quite loud, and quite different. But I think this step in between, and you go to before yourself and Franca, this we kind of missed. So that's definitely
never had
an offline topic we can help. Right. I will finish now with the advice piece, because as we said before, that the podcast is from entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. It's also about getting the learning. So if an entrepreneur, not necessarily, doesn't need to be an early stage entrepreneur, can be somebody who is same restaurant as you or a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, comes and is completely on the bottom, like completely exhausted, struggle, like cannot see and cannot find anything positive anymore, exhausted, full struggle, full crisis. What's the tool set you as friend, Thom, would apply to give perspective and help this entrepreneur finding back the drive? What do you do, or what can you abstract from your own crisis on giving a learning?
I mean, I've had a couple of those crises, and I tend to my solution is to go somewhere away from everyone and get obsessed with one particular band and read everything about that band, listen to all of their music, totally obsessed about that band, put my entire heart and soul into it, and then come back. And then I think the bit that makes you realize that it's all okay is when you come back and the whole thing is running in your absence, probably better without you. And it's finding that thing that you didn't even know was happening that makes you proud. So you come back and you see, meet someone, an initiative that's been set up, or, a particular sales driving metric, or a promotion or whatever. And like, find that thing that you had nothing to do with. And you're like, that is exactly the kind of business that I wanted to start. I mean, you'll find something if you know where to look. And then, you'll be like, okay, cool. So I've created something that lives on its own. I can only imagine it's like when you send your kids off to uni or whatever, and like they're suddenly off doing shit without you. And you hear stuff that you're probably not proud of, but you will get things you're like, got something right there. That kid's done the right thing. And I think that's the same with the business. But they're the moments for me when you see stuff happens and you have nothing to do with in your life.
Wow, what a nice person, and actually a very, let's say, a new angle on doubt and drive.
Very new angles.
I always ask about difficulties, and it sounds like there's no problem at all.
Because he says, let's make a problem only a problem when it is a problem.
He's so right.
I think, let's make a problem only a problem when it is a problem. I think that's a strong one. I think he's the most Napoli-esque person, which is not from Napoli, probably. So what's your learning, Florian?
I mean, we talked about his family and his brother as a partner, and he's actually bringing up a new angle on that, where he said, my brother's skills and mine, they complement each other, and he's very lucky to have him. So when we heard in other interviews where they said, find yourself a partner, not your best friend, not your family, he actually obviously embraces that quite a lot.
100%. But then he was very strict that he said, although we are family, like we are running it as a family, we have a really aversion, he called it. He used a very strong word about calling ourselves a family. He said, we are like a family is a fucking nightmare. He said, you don't want to work there. So it's more tribe than a family. But I think we heard that more often. Then he had like, slow down.
But I just want to jump in there, because I think it's really important, because we always talk about our industry as a people's business, and that's true.
Yeah.
And we have I know many people who say, my business is the family and we are the family, and my staff is family. Mm-hmm. Basically, I rather go with him saying, we are a strong team, we are a successful team, we stick together, but we are not
based on the values.
Based on values, because he's so right. Family is a cause of trouble in certain senses.
Or as he said, a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Fourth learning was slow down, one thing at a time. I think that was something which came through with him quite a lot. When he said that when he was in Florence and he realized that it took 150 years to build the Duomo, and that nobody of them saw it at the beginning and at the end. So his time horizons are pretty long, and he's much more driven by the quality and the product and the brand he delivers than with the numbers of restaurants.
Absolutely. I mean, he also said at the end, I don't look at numbers at all. So,
I don't. There's people who do that and who like to do that. I don't look at numbers at all.
Then he said doubts. His doubts getting bigger when the company grows. So it's actually not, and it's also truth in it. No? I mean, it's getting more complexity. You grow, and therefore your problems
and you have more
to grow.
I think he said that also you have more responsibility, because he said when we came home, we had like a maxed out business card, a credit card, £10,000, and we bought a up band. We were both standing there, and if it wouldn't have worked, there was nobody to fire. Now we have like 480 people, soon 600.
Yeah.
So if we fail now, it really has an impact.
Right. We were talking about people. He said, hire people that you trust. You were asking him about the over-promotion topic quite a lot. Gave a lot of insights there as well.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about happiness and how he defines success, because you were asking, which was a very strong question, you asked him, like, if you don't define success by number of openings, which obviously he doesn't, how you define it? And he said happiness. And he also said, making people happy, one pizza at a time. Happier, he said. Making people happier. Reminds me on our vision floor, which we created back then. All we do with love to refresh your life. In that specific moment where the guest is with us, we cannot change their lives, but we can make it a little bit better, one pizza slice at a time.
For me, this was one of the strongest messages of Thom, that he said happiness is a business goal and happiness is success. That is, it's really strong. It's a completely new angle in that context.
I think it will be the title of the podcast because it's so specific. So the last learning was a so specific one, which shows what character he is. When he said, like, if somebody comes struggle with the business completely down, what do you recommend? And he said, you go out of the business, you find a band, you dig completely into the band, you get obsessed with the band, you listen to everything, you read all the biographies, you go to concerts if they're still alive, you go to the guitar shops, as you said, and then when you come back to the business, you realize it's still there, it's still running, and then you find something which happened during your absence, which you're really proud of, and that will give you energy. I found that very, very specific advice, but it worked for him. He shared.
Absolutely.
He just did Led Zeppelin.
And he's obviously very proud that things happens without him, that things are working out he has nothing to do with. That's really, really amazing and strong.
Great character. Let's make a problem only a problem when it is a problem. Success is happiness. What a great podcast. Take care, Florian. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we did. But sharing is not just caring. It is also empowering. So recommend this podcast to fellow entrepreneurs who might need a dose of inspiration. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss out on future episodes. Thank you for being part of the community from Doubt to Drive Entrepreneurs Only. Mario and Florian are already gearing up for the next episode. Until then, stay tuned, stay driven, and we'll be back next week.